Hello everyone and welcome back to Two Andrews, One Barbell. I'm Andrew Rowe and this is
Andrew Blackwood, and today we are joined by the lovely
Nicolaas Du Preez.
Nicolaas Du Preez.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Perfect?
Yeah.
Amazing. I was going to ask you how to say it properly because
No, just like that. Nicolaas Du Preez.
Du Preez, yeah, there's like a little bit of an up at the end.
Usually the Z is completely silent.
Okay.
So you can even say in English Du Preez.
Du Preez.
Yeah.
That's how I would have gone for it.
Yeah.
I know there's actually quite a few Du Preez in America. So the Z there is silent
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Du Preez, yeah. I'm going to
Yeah.
refer to it as Du Preez. There's a little bit of up at the end.
Du
From now on.
Preez. Du
Okay.
Preez.
Du Preez.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
Du Preez.
for anyone who doesn't know already, this weekend Nick is lifting at the Abs Clash of the Titans 2
Yeah.
up against Dan Bell and a bunch of other of the strongest people in the world.
Monsters. Basically,
Yeah.
this competition is like the biggest of the big dogs coming together to throw down, and it's one on total. Correct?
European version of big dogs, I would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
So Nick actually flew over. I think it's like 16 hours from South Africa to get here to do the podcast, and then it just actually happened to line up with the competition as well. So
What a coincidence.
he said I might as well go win the Clash of Titans 2 while I'm doing the podcast.
That's
Okay, obviously.
on your word.
Obviously, that's not true. He thankfully obliged us some of his time in the lead up to this competition. So we're about 2 days out. It's on Saturday.
I think it's 2 days. Yeah.
Amazing.
48 hours.
Amazing. So,
let's unravel this. So how are you feeling about the competition? You looking forward to it? You excited? Nervous?
I'm really excited, really looking forward, but I do agree as the time gets closer and the days get less, the nerves are
Yeah.
shooting up there, definitely. But I would say it's a good kind of nervous. Having to share the platform with these type of names, it's an honor, honestly. Some of these guys I actually looked up to when I just started training, never mind doing powerlifting.
amazing. That actually is almost a perfect segue
Yeah.
into what we wanted to dive into in the beginning. So taking it all the way back, a young Nicholas, how did you get into training and then from there into powerlifting? How long did it take? Was there other sports involved? What was it?
So basically from a young age, I've always been a physical guy. I
Yeah.
love physical culture. Growing up, I grew up basically on a plot. We didn't have a lot of technology, South Africa first off.
Yeah.
So I was always playing outside, building tree houses, doing typical South African outdoor stuff. And then from there, once I got to school, immediately, as you would know, rugby.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Start
about
with
that
rugby.
big rugby culture.
Played rugby from primary school all the way to high school. But throughout that, I was gambling a lot of other sports. I've been doing squash, tennis, athletics, kickboxing, Muay Thai, K1, MMA.
And were you successful at a lot of these sports?
Yeah,
Like
most of them, yeah. I've had a natural inclination to being, I would say, a relatively good sportsman.
athletic.
Yeah. But I've always gone back to gym-related sports. So, been through most of the sports, but gym is what always pulled me back. And that's why I started with bodybuilding first, dabbled with that for a few years. Did about 2 or 3 local strongman comps. That was fun as well. And then one day, one of my friends asked me, like, listen, you've never tried powerlifting? Give it a go.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure thing. I mean, why not?
I've done everything else.
Yeah. And I think it's about 7, 8 years later, still doing powerlifting. It's the longest sport I've done up until now. And I don't think I'll ever stop.
So 7 to 8 years. How long were you bodybuilding before that? Just to give me a time frame.
My first bodybuilding show, I think I was 18 years old. Competed until 22, about. It's about, what, 4 years, give or take.
And are you 28, 29 now?
30. I actually just turned 30 about 3 weeks ago.
Belated happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Granddad. Yeah.
If I had a beard, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. So Andrew and I just lifted in our 12th and 13th competition respectively. How many competitions have you done?
I'm not certain on the exact number, but I would say, let me quickly just think on the top of my head. I think about 10 or just, about 9 competitions in total.
And would a lot of them have been based in South Africa?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them except for last year's Abs Pro. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm keen to hear more about just growing up in South Africa. Obviously, you said there's a big like rugby culture and everything, but just in general, like you've been here now. You've been here twice. can you tell us about some of like the striking differences between Ireland and, of course, you didn't grow up here, but I'd love to hear about growing up in South Africa.
Well, there's actually quite a few differences. It's difficult just to pick a starting point.
Yeah.
It's actually quite difficult.
I'd say there is. Of course.
You can start even with the gym culture. What is it like in South Africa?
Believe it or not, but South Africa has got a massive gym culture. I would say maybe one of the biggest in the world. Population dependent, obviously, based on the country.
Yeah.
But most young people either go to the gym or do a sport. We excel in a lot of sports, obviously rugby, even strongman. We've got a few world's strongest men people that goes every year there. The powerlifting scene now especially is blowing up. Athletics, we do really well with that. Cricket as well. I'm going to say football and not soccer.
Yeah.
But football, we're up there as well. We go to the African Cup quite a few times. Even hockey, we're a really strong hockey country. Yeah. And then even other sports like fishing, we're quite up there. And now recently, I think it was a darts. We're quite one of the best.
Over everything.
Everything.
Even the slap competition.
Yeah, there's a guy in there, isn't
yeah.
Yeah, because you have fighters too in the UFC.
I would say, Nicolaas Du Preez, perfect example. He just took the middleweight belt.
Yeah.
So I think it boils down to our, let's say, heritage and our history.
Yeah.
Being big, physical, strong people coming from Central Europe due to the colonization. We've always been a physical country, especially with the colonization, and that's carried over to all of our sports.
Amazing.
And then you said you started with bodybuilding when you were like 18. What drew you down that path? That's an interesting one.
I wouldn't say necessarily something specific. I just loved the challenge of challenging yourself, bettering yourself. And it seemed like doing a bodybuilding competition or bodybuilding show was just the next step.
Yeah.
So doing what I could in the gym, that was great and everything, but obviously you want to show off your hard work, and that would be the next step.
Yeah. And when did you start going to the gym first and foremost? Like, how old were you then?
So I was in a private agricultural boys' high school, Oakdale in Riversdale, a high school Oakdale.
Yeah.
So we were only allowed to go to the gym once you turn 16.
Okay. Yeah.
So up until 16, we would do calisthenics,
push-ups in the bedroom,
push-ups, all of those. Yeah, literally, we had this one rule actually. The school was small. The entire school from grade 8 to matric was about 350 learners. And in the hostel, me and my friends had this one simple rule. Every time you leave your room and every time you come into the room, you have to do 10 pull-ups. So we would do shit like that.
A lot of units walking around that school.
So at the end of the day, you would be here by 100, 200, 300 pull-ups. And the next day you would repeat it.
I'd say the closest thing in Ireland is maybe having a cigarette every time you leave the room. It's only the equivalent for our students.
Yeah, no, there's we're definitely not doing that. But I can remember like back in the day though, like 14 years old, up in the bedroom, just banging out push-ups until you can't anymore.
And sit-ups, and then someone would come in.
Yeah, and
like,
then you have to pretend like you're not doing anything. You're all red in the face, you're sweating. You're like, what are we doing in here?
Nothing.
Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, like hiding the nastiest pump you've ever had in your life.
So we did basically calisthenics until we turned 16. Then we were allowed in the gym. So we had a small farm gym. As soon as I turned 16, I immediately signed up to be part of the, let's say, the admin crew or the personnel of the gym. So it was my job from Mondays till Thursdays to wake up at 4, get to the gym by 5, open the gym for the students, whoever's allowed, and from there it took flame, basically.
So about 14, 15?
14, 15.
What age were you?
At that time, 16.
16,
yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
At the age of 16 was the first time I ever got into the gym.
Okay.
And where were you getting like your information from at that stage? Like around training, around programming, around technique?
Around that stage, training was a passion.
Yeah.
It's what we did because, no specific reason, but I just enjoyed it. It was a love of my life at that age.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I was just absolutely obsessed with it. It's like the first thing that you find that is
it's actually
like
a love,
sacred almost.
Mm-hmm. So turned 16, got into the gym, and then just kept on training. Any information that I got regarding nutrition or training, I didn't really care about that because I just wanted to gym. And then as I got a bit older, I delved a bit more into the research aspect to get a bit of a better diet, do research on supplements. Because at that age, when I turned 17, 18, creatine was taboo. It was a steroid. You don't take creatine. So I would have my tuna salad at night at 17 years old, and that was it basically. And then once I went to matric, last year of high school, that's when I got a bit more serious.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned about creatine. I remember having arguments with my parents about, please, I swear to God, it's not steroids. Please just let me have it.
First off, it's a white powder. That already,
doesn't look great.
that already
Doesn't look great. Bringing it through the airports, because I don't want to bring my full bag of creatine through the airport, so I just get like a little baggie. I get a little baggie and I just put like.
It's like for me, example now, I brought washing powder through the airport. In a Ziploc bag. I had to write washing powder.
I have creatine and then I have pre-workout. It looks even more dodgy.
I'm pretty sure if you were bringing some dodgy substance, you would still write washing powder.
But seemingly every time it goes through, no problem. So I don't know what they can see. Maybe they just see a Ziploc bag in the front of your suitcase and they're like, there's no way he's dumb enough to...
I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to get into your education now, because that's a big question I was interested to ask. But wouldn't be surprised if you've heard a little bit about this, or I can't fully explain it. It's something to do with the it's like radiology or like the waves that
reflects like
different substances
kind of
give off. So you know the way like sometimes you can do like heat or whatever. So it's not just that they're looking for like the shape of a gun in your bag. It's like something to do with something that emits.
Apparently there was a big drama thing in the Dublin airport because they were doing like a controlled test. They got a gun through the security.
Really?
It was a shit show. The whole security team were like,
No way.
That's insane.
Man, you shouldn't be telling people about
that. And I think that was like insider info that I wasn't meant to know, but like Dublin Airport.
If you can be able to get a gun through the airport, I might bring some stuff next year.
It was Nick.
It was Nick bringing it through. It's these guns. So anyway, sorry, I cut across. You were about to ask a question about education.
I just wanted to bridge into that, because you're talking about growing up, 16 you get into the gym, and you're talking about high school and everything like this, but what came after that? What did the years between 18 and 30 look like for you?
Yeah, so in matric last year, 18 years old, my grand scheme for life was I wanted to be a soldier. So I wanted to finish grade 12, go to the Royal Marines of the United Kingdom. And if I remember correctly, I did my research well back then because I was certain that's what I'm going to do.
That was the passion.
I think after 3 years, you'd be allowed to join the Special Air Service, the British SAS, and that was my life goal. But then literally in the last 6 months, my mother was like, nope, you're going to get a degree first, and then we can think about you going over.
And can I stop you there? What was it about being a soldier that attracted you, or why did you want to go down that path?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't remember. It was just I think it might boil down again to that physicality culture, because I read a lot of books about, how to apply the physical tests, and those physical tests intrigued me a lot. Having to hike for 3-4 days with a 40-50 kilogram backpack, it fascinates me, because having the ability to push your body to the limits and hopefully survive, it's something amazing. So then, I told my mother, fine. I mean, you're my mom. I'll listen to you. So
best.
had to make sure my marks were on par for university. Got accepted, and then I had to choose which modules or what do I want to go and study. And I would say my two passions: physical culture and science. I've got a big passion for science. And one of the universities came and had an open day at the school, and they gave out all of the modules that you could choose from. And one of the modules that really attracted me was zoology and also microbiology specifically. And I thought, well, let's give it a go. Signed up for it. I really hoped my marks were good enough, and luckily they were actually. So end of matric, and then the next year went to university, applied for a Bachelor's of Science degree in zoology and microbiology, both a 3-year degree, finished that. So I respected my mother's wishes. But then I was like, I'm actually enjoying this.
I like this. I'm kind of smart.
I wouldn't say smart, but I was actually good at that. My marks were decent. I got scholarships through that. And I was thinking, let's do another one.
Why not?
So I went for post grad. So I specialized in microbiology, did a BSc honors degree in biogas production, which was really interesting. Loved that. And after that, I was like, let's do another one. And that's when I started my master's degree, also in science. But then I jumped back to zoology. In zoology, I specialized in emerging infectious diseases and molecular biology as a combined field. Finished that, and the next one was a PhD. And I was like, that's a title I need to get.
That's a big one.
So I completely forgot about the Royal Marines. I got so
That's gone by this stage. Yeah.
I had a main quest, started the side quest, that
And
became
then
the main
that
quest.
became more,
Unfortunately, it didn't pan out until the end. I was busy for 4 years. A lot of things happened. Lockdown impacted a lot of things. Had 1 year left, and I was like, I'm done. I'm tired.
Too much on the plate.
Too much on the plates, because during lockdown, the PhD was on standstill for 2 years, basically. So I thought, well, during these 2 years, let's start another degree. Started with a personal training degree. At that point, I was also thinking, you know, I can't let my mom go through all of this again with the finances. I told her, stop paying for me, I'll make a plan. And that's when I started doing coaching.
Okay.
Started online coaching, clients heaped up.
Yeah.
Got to about 30 clients within a few months. I was busy.
Yeah.
Couldn't get time for the personal training degree, couldn't get time for the PhD once that went forward again.
Yeah.
So I stopped the PhD, stopped the personal training degree as well. And that's when I focused only on online coaching and also on my own profile as what I hoped to pan out as a professional athlete, specifically powerlifting. And now I'm here.
Right here, and it's going that way. You've had a lot of quests. You've had, you know.
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually afraid something else might come my way. I'm like, powerlifting is going to take a backseat. But
Someone
I
just
doubt
offers
that.
a strongman competition, and he's like, you know what? Maybe I'll go
I
back
could be
to
pretty
it.
good at
I'll
that.
give it a try again.
Hold on to that thought, actually.
There's
Don't
new
throw the
strongman area
keg
being
or
set
a
up here.
rock. Yeah.
That is actually on my radar.
Yeah?
Once I don't want to say once I'm done with powerlifting, but maybe a few years down along the line,
That's definitely
or
something you'd revisit.
in a big off season. It's like when I tore my quad with powerlifting 2 years ago. I had a 4-month break. In that 4 months of rehabbing my quad, I was like, let's prep for a bodybuilding show. Another side quest.
What do you think it is that has you so interested in every endeavor that you just touch on? You know, you just did an undergrad, but then you were thinking, I'll go all the way.
I'll do another.
With the military, it was SAS. With powerlifting, it's
become a professional athlete, like the pinnacle.
I'm still trying to figure.
achiever.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure myself out. But I think with me, what helps is once I put my mind to something, regardless of what it is, whether it's academics, research, physicality, tests, I get tunnel vision and I get obsessed, literally. Because once I read something, I want more and more and more, and I don't stop. Until something maybe happens, I get backtracked and I find something else to keep me busy. Yeah. And then I want more and more and more.
I think this is something to do with, I'm sure maybe your mom, you know, fostered this belief that you could do these things. You said you're athletic from a young age. So it's like you were successful from a young age. And what you kept doing across all these endeavors was showing yourself repeatedly that you can do things and you can succeed. So then as soon as you start something new, it's like, well, I know I can succeed at this because I've succeeded at so many other things. And then you take one step and you succeed. And then it's this rollover. And now you're someone who, well, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all in, because when I do, it works.
Like that's something we found with a lot of the high achieving like athletes that we've talked to. And a lot of it seems to come back to like in their younger, like more formative years, like a backing of belief, oftentimes from like their parents, it has seemed, fostering that at a young age and then it building from there.
I can completely agree with that. I've never actually thought about this, but now that you mention it, I would say my mother has a big role to play there. She had me at a really young age. Basically, people always joke that I'm so smart, so I did all of these degrees because I wrote matric twice. So my mom had me at 18 years old. I was in a belly when she wrote matric. Yeah. And then directly when she finished matric, I was born in March. And obviously she had to drop, I don't want to say drop everything, but she had to look after me.
There's a big responsibility.
And she wasn't one person to back down. I think that's one thing that inspired me. See, from that young age, she had to work to raise me up. She had to work, get money to put me through school, get me food, all of that things. And she's never stopped until now. And I think that rubbed off on me. And also just to show to her that not only do I appreciate that, but it shows that whatever you put your mind to, regardless of the situation, regardless of who you are, it's achievable.
It's amazing. I really like that.
Yeah.
And it's actually very similar. My mum had my older brother when she was 18. And same thing, had to work really hard. And then 5 years after that, I came along. So she's my age now, looking after 2 kids.
That is
Crazy.
scary. If you think,
Crazy.
imagine we are 30 years old. Oh, how old are you now?
I'm 23.
Okay. Imagine you at 23
Yeah.
had to have a child being 8 years old or something like that. I can't fathom that.
Looking after them.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Incredibly
Amazing.
difficult, yeah.
So
Amazing women.
the backbone that woman has,
Yeah.
because I believe behind every great man, there's a
Yeah.
greater woman, basically.
1000%.
I like
1000%.
That was wholesome.
Yeah.
I feel good after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love my mom as well. I feel she is listening.
I feel like
Shout
I'm
out to
call
the
her
mums
now.
out there. I know,
Yeah.
shout out to the mums.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
So we have a few core topics here that, of course, we're going to touch off, and they're going to
Yeah, they're interlock and
and
we'll
everything.
draw back to certain things. And
We have one overarching topic, which is training philosophy. And we're just going to fire you.
I'd say this will be a really interesting one because you've had such a broad,
experience.
like you've
broad field.
done bodybuilding, you've done strongman, and now you've done powerlifting for so long.
Even silly, I'm dropping in now. What do you call it in English? We call it in Afrikaans touwtrek. In Oakdale, we had a sport touwtrek, which is quite big. Our school, Oakdale, would always come to Scotland for the World Championships in touwtrek.
Interesting.
For some reason, I can't
Yeah.
find it now, but basically you've got about 4 or 5 guys on the one end of the rope,
Yeah.
and then 4 or 5 guys
Oh,
at
like
the end.
tug of war?
Tug of war, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, my English now.
Don't worry.
So even silly little sport like that.
Yeah. Exceptional.
Do you speak English in South Africa or Afrikaans?
Afrikaans.
You can say I'm bilingual.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Afrikaans accent is strong,
Yeah.
but most South Africans speak on average maybe 2 to 3, some people even 4 or 5 languages, because we've got about 11 official languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at bare minimum, most of us speak 2
least
languages.
2.
Yeah.
And what would be your day-to-day tongue? Like, how would you speak it? Afrikaans?
Afrikaans.
English? Yeah.
Afrikaans, yeah. For my usual socializing and in the house, Afrikaans. But usually when it comes to work or studies or anything else or seminars, it's always English. That's the international standard.
Yeah.
So we have to.
Yeah. Cool.
Interesting.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'd love to have another language like that. I wish we used Irish like you use Afrikaans.
Yeah, because we all have to learn Irish in school, but it's
Yeah.
not as common
Serious,
as it should be.
As if-
So
It's disappointing, actually.
I know.
Should
I'd
probably
love
be
it.
better.
I'd love to have it. Yeah, we'll start it now.
Yeah. 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 What do you mean? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's start speaking Irish to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do
Yeah,
it from
but
now
we
on.
have critics here. You know?
Right, we're gonna start doing.
Wait,
it. We're
Irish,
gonna put it on the map, man.
is Irish not an English language?
So it's like Celtic kind of background. So like in Scotland, they call it like
Gaelic?
Gaelic. They call it
Gaelic,
Gaelic, yeah.
okay.
And then in Irish it'd be Gaeilge. So
Guelga.
yeah.
I never heard about that.
Yeah, so we spoke that until the English came over, and then they
Okay.
were like, if we catch you speaking Irish,
Yeah.
you're done. So then they used to teach it like in hedge schools, or like what is that what they're called?
Yeah,
Hedge
yeah.
schools. So you'd have to like hide in the bushes to speak Irish.
I see.
Yeah. And then eventually it got outlawed, and we still have this like small towns that would speak like exclusively or mainly Irish, but it's very
Or something we have is the Gael talk. So, like friends of mine who are becoming teachers, where they have to know Irish for primary school kids.
Yeah.
They go to the Gael talk, and you just live in these areas that just mainly or always speak Irish. Of course, they have English, but their language is Irish.
I'm assuming those are a bit more isolated
yeah.
places or
Rural,
villages. Rural, yeah.
Or the only other time you use it is if you're abroad and you want to talk about someone and you don't want them to know you're talking about you. that primary school Irish starts coming back and you just about piece together a sentence. Yeah, very rare though.
Awesome.
So we've heard a little bit about what has formed you into the successful athlete that you are. But I do want to hear about, because I actually don't know a lot about your training. Of course you post your highlights, your training highlights, as everybody does. But I don't actually know really what your training looks like. And then I suppose what has changed, or what advice would you give to your younger self, knowing what you know now about your training? So what makes your training successful now, and what have you learned, and what would you give to your younger self?
Have there been any mistakes along the way that you've rectified?
Oh, there's
or even big lessons?
been many mistakes, obviously. I believe trial and error, you get to learn through your mistakes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say throughout these years I have a set specific routine or a set specific program. You'd actually think it's quite silly, but almost every prep looks different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting. Plus, for me, like I mentioned, I love the sport. So playing a bit around every time keeps it interesting. It keeps it alive.
Trying new strategies. And
So throughout every prep, which is completely different from one another, for the following prep, I would take a little bit of something from this one, a little bit of something from this one, and then combine that and incorporate
Make a
to
new
the new
Frankenstein
prep.
prep.
Yeah. And then for the next prep, I would take the best thing of this prep again and continue that.
So you program for yourself?
Yeah, I was going to say, are you self-coached?
Self-coached, self-programmed, everything.
And has that always been the case, or have you worked with coaches throughout the years?
In the past, when I did bodybuilding, I had a coach for a week.
Cool.
I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then again, I think I was a bit young and naive. I was 19 years old. And it was a week or 2 weeks before a bodybuilding show. I was friendly forced to do it.
Yeah.
And he told me, okay, no, today you're going to do this. Saturday, you're not going to do this, etc. Saturday, I went in and did something. I got a scolding, and I told him straight, I'm not enjoying this. I'm done with you. And then from there, straight forward, up until now, just been self-coaching.
And what is it, would you say, that you prefer about self-coaching as opposed to working with someone else? Do you like that autonomy, that control yourself, where you are free to experiment? You don't have someone telling you black and white, this is what you have to do, this is what you
I think
shouldn't
it's
do.
exactly that. Free roaming is a big thing for me. So if I feel like, for this prep, I would rather want to do this and this and this, I'm going to do that. You're not going to tell me otherwise. I don't want to say I'm hard-headed, but I appreciate my own free will, I can put it that way. Also, if I feel like, the program from a coach now says, Monday you have to do this, but sometimes in life you can't, something happens, then I take off, then that's on me. So I think it's just the basic essence of, I do what I want to do. But I have to say, these last few years, I've been thinking about getting a coach, especially for powerlifting.
Yeah.
Because I am happy up to where I've gotten up until now, but I do believe having a proper coach on my side will get me a bit further, especially regarding the accountability factor.
Yeah.
That is a big thing with me. For the day, if I'm not in the mood, I'll just take off from gym. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But I think that is just my mentality of, I'm not taking the sport too seriously, but in the sense of, I enjoy what I do, and I don't want to make it a job.
That could almost even be more beneficial because you have that lack of pressure or stress associated with it. So you're enjoying it more on the day-to-day because you don't have that overbearing kind of.
Exactly that.
And you've done pretty well so far. So
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Thus far, it's worked. But we'll see how long I keep on continuing with the self-coaching. Especially now, I had to prep for this weekend, but literally for the last 2 months, I had a few athletes that had a few comps. Literally every second week, up until the week before I flew up, I was at different athletes' comps. So I would disregard my own training. I would disregard my own accountability, because I'm that type of person. If I have someone that I need to look after, I'm going to invest into you. I'd rather not invest into myself then.
Fascinating. That seems to have worked. How many days would you say you train a week then? Does it change, or do you have a general layout that you're going to be following, like a spreadsheet that you're going, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
there is a relative general template. So in the past, I used to train 7 days a week, maybe 10 days a week. But no, I used to train 7 days a week, and that got down to 6 days a week, up until where now for my off season, it's 5 days a week, 4 days a week. So as I got older, more mature, more experienced, I would prioritize rest days more and active rest days more. For this prep, as an example, the further out, I started off with 5 days a week. As it got closer, I went to 4 days a week. a few weeks out, 3 days a week. So I would train 3 days a week, have 4 rest days actually. And then for the taper and the deload, the last 3 weeks, I would train 2 times a week. But those would be massive SBD sessions which last 3 hours, 2 hours.
Because I was thinking that leading into this, when you are so strong and handling like such big weights, it must be difficult to like manage recovery. Because like when you're squatting 400 plus kilos, like that's gonna.
No, I feel it.
Toll, yeah.
I would squat 440 kilos the weekend. And then even the next week when it's a deload squat, that deload squat feels heavier.
Yeah, because
so having more rest days actually helps, obviously.
Suffering from success. You're just too big and strong.
on that recovery note, you know, of course, there's sleep. We look at food. We look at stress. How do you manage all these things? What's your sleep look like? What's your diet look like? That's actually something I want to hear about.
So the one thing I can say with the bodybuilding background, which I do appreciate, from then up until now, I have that constant, let's say, stigma of following a balanced, structured diet. Usually I calorie count every day, but now in Ireland, I do portion control. Because I would basically know that the portion sizes would equate to this amount of calories and macros. But I would usually calorie count every day. I actually track my steps, I track my water intake, I track everything. And that's helped me a lot regarding recovery, performance, etc. But the other bad thing with the bodybuilding mentality, which I'm starting to learn off now, is always wanting to be lean and conditioned. And last year that shot me in the foot a little bit. Hence why I picked up about 6-7 kg since last year's comp.
Nice.
Yes, because you're so not lean anymore. It looks like you could still step on the stage.
You're going to have a laugh. This is the fattest I've ever been.
Woo!
Beforehand, you were seeing your heartbeat in your chest. You were so
that
lean.
is crazy. Because that is, like, if you check your... Oh my God! For anyone who can't see, you can literally see his pulse coming through your skin. That's how fucking lean he is. Bro, there's nothing here. It's like a marshmallow on my arm.
So
that is incredible.
The one thing about that is being so lean, timing my meals is really important, especially around training. Even when waking up. If I don't get my carbs in at the right time, I don't get in the right amount of carbs or the right type of carbs, there's a lot of times I go hypoglycemic. I feel like shit. I get lightheaded. It doesn't end well. And that impacts my performance, not in a good taste.
So how many calories are you eating a day for a guy who's, 130?
Like 132, 133 at the moment.
That's a lot of, and being so lean as well, that's a lot of mass. That's a lot of mass you got to fill right there.
You'd be surprised, not a lot of calories. I think I was on maintenance for this prep. If I got in about 4,000 calories, I would be happy. 4,200 calories, I would be happy. And that was basically a maintenance.
That's about the same for me. And I'm 110, and I'm definitely not that lean. So that is interesting how it's actually relatively low at the most.
How much protein? Depending on the debates these days on the internet. Also, there's this new thing about protein recycling, which the body does. I usually split my macros up, if I remember correctly, 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fats.
Okay.
And then, say, like peak bulk, eating the most food, what would be like the most you're putting away a day, calories?
I don't even use the word bulk. I would just basically say I would be in a slight surplus. Slight surplus is literally 100, 200, 300 calories above.
Very controlled.
Like mid, fourth.
And that is enough, depending on your physical activity and your energy expenditure. But for my protein intake, the typical, I think it's 1.5 grams per kilogram body weight. But a lot of times I would actually drop my protein and then up my fats and my carbs.
Interesting.
And why? Why would you do that?
Hypoglycemic reasons. And then obviously, when I was younger, I always thought a high fat, high protein diet was a bit better. Well, person dependent, maybe for some it is, maybe for others it isn't. But these last few months I found having a bit more carbs is a bit more beneficial, especially for the powerlifting.
So you're looking at like 200 grams of protein?
No, I would say a little bit more. The last time I checked, I averaged about 450 grams of carbs per day, but between 400 and 450. Protein would be around 300 or just below 300, and then fats 100, 120, give or take.
Interesting. Very interesting. And something that I am, well, I have a philosophy around training, and I'd be interested to hear your take on it. Where, say, those earlier years of like bodybuilding, would you say that had a carryover into your powerlifting training now in terms of obviously like building muscle mass and just building your frame and just trying to become like bigger, but also obviously being in shape, being lean? Would you say that it had an effect on the powerlifting? Obviously from the nutrition side of things as well, being that meticulous and that like conscientious with all of those details. Do you think the bodybuilding had a decent carryover to the powerlifting?
Oh, definitely. Well, putting the diet side apart and everything, I would say the other thing is my training style and training principle. Since I've started bodybuilding years ago, it's always been a Dorian Yates approach. High intensity training, heavy weights, and with those heavy weights, the carryover has always been having a higher level of strength.
Yeah, because my philosophy, a lot of my training is essentially like bodybuilding style training. A lot of accessory work, just trying to build a bigger frame. And over the last like 2 years, I would say that has had like the biggest carryover to increasing my total. And obviously looking at you, you're a giant man, you have a lot of muscle mass. To me, it checks out, it makes a lot of sense. And that has been like the avenue that I've been trying to go down, and it seems
I would
to be
say
working.
quite similar to yours. I would do my main lift or main compounds, obviously heavy weights, maybe on the lower spectrum of reps. 1 to 5, 1 to 6 reps for strength building. And then I would follow up with the assistant lifts, depending on the season where I am. Also 1 rep up until maybe 8, and then fall back to bodybuilding training. Basically hypertrophy, and that's worked wonders.
Would that follow through a lot of your training now?
Mostly. It's how I train now, basically. So at the moment, I would do 1 main compound lift, 1 to 2 assistant lifts, and then 2 to 3 accessories.
Kind of hypertrophy lifts.
What about running into comp? Do you pull back on the accessory lifts?
I do. As I get closer to comp, I prioritize the main lift more. The assistant lifts I still keep in, but I would maybe pull back on volume, amount of sets, for example. And the accessories might get a little bit less and less, especially the volume. I would still keep the accessories, but drop down intensity and drop down on amount of sets as well.
Yeah, because I've found that a few times, getting closer to competition, I pulled back accessories almost too much, and then I just started feeling like soft and flabby.
That happens.
Yeah.
So like, the timing is really important as well.
Yeah.
What is something you think a lot of other lifters get wrong in their training or their approach?
Or could improve on. Maybe not get wrong, but if you could.
Some low-hanging fruit that they could.
See anyone else and go, oh, if you just did this small thing, I think you could unlock some extra gains.
I would say for powerlifting specifically, I believe with the current, let's say, technology and the information age we're living in, everyone's got access to everything we're doing at the moment. It's on the internet. Everyone posts their secrets, the way they train, etc. But the one thing I've seen people still neglect a bit, besides diets and sleep and those obvious things, is the warm-up approach.
Interesting.
I find a lot of people, especially in South Africa, they go into the gym, not even doing anything, directly fall under the bar and just start benching or just start squatting. And then from there, things can go sideways fast.
Yeah.
Or you maybe miss out on additional strength gains or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, because that's definitely a contentious one. I've seen loads of content on like both camps where like, yeah, just come into the gym and just do like a set of the bar and then you're good to go. Or there's other camps that are come in and do all these mobility exercises and blah, blah, blah. Where would you say you fall in between those? Like what would your approach warming up look like?
So I would say depending on the age you are.
Yeah.
I found when I was a bit younger, obviously you're a bit more mobile, you're a bit more loose by nature, endurable. Yeah. You've got more grit.
Yeah.
You're a bit more brave, I want to say.
Rubber and magic.
Or
you just get away with whatever you want. Yeah.
And the injuries, you're not as prone for the injuries. So with that regard, myself as well, I would just fall under the bar and take an empty bar for a warm-up. Do like, let's say, 3 sets of 10. That would be the warm-up. Then start adding plates. But as I've gotten older, the warm-ups got introduced and the warm-ups started getting longer as well. So first off, I would introduce the treadmill for a 10-minute walk, then fall under the bar. A few years went by, I would do a 10-minute treadmill walk, and then maybe I would do a bit of stretches and then fall under the bar. As time goes on, treadmill, a bit of dynamic stretches, a bit of mobility work, and then let's say movement pattern specific warm-ups, and then get under the bar.
Okay. How long does that take?
But these days, warm-ups take about, if I'm effective and don't talk too much shit between sets.
Which is always a variable that has to be accounted for.
With powerlifters, you know.
That's a tough one.
I would say somewhere between, depending whether it's an upper body or lower body, 15 to 20 minutes for warm-ups. But that's
Still reasonable.
that's without the treadmill walk. So I always have the tradition of doing a 10-minute treadmill walk just to get the body rate
Even
up.
psychologically, that's preparing you for time to train.
And then after that, I would do a bit of dynamic stretches, and then the movement pattern specific warm-ups. So all in total, 20 to 30 minutes would be my warm-up.
Okay.
I found this new thing that I like to say, I almost want a pump, basically.
Before getting under the bar.
I can like say that a little bit. For me, say my knees after competition were just fried. What did I say? They were like cheese knees.
Cheese
It's like a cheese string.
It was like I'd sit on the toilet and I would just fall onto it because my knees were just so sore. Don't know exactly what it was, just intense acute fatigue and maybe like poor nutrition after, we go out for drinks, I didn't eat and whatever. So whatever. And I said, coming in this week, first week back on program, how do I go about
not having to fall down on the toilet
with the bar on my back? So it was exactly that. I basically just got a pump in my knees. That's the best way to put it. So however someone sees fit, I think for my lifters or for anyone, my advice would be, doing something that doesn't tire you out for the lift, but makes you feel prepared. And if that's for us, it's generally a pump. So.
I get a little bit of like a sweat on.
Basically. Especially for me, before squats and deadlifts, I always tell my athletes as well, including myself, I want a glute pump before I squat and deadlift. As with your knees, get blood through them, make sure they're warmed up, they're lubed up, and then chance of injury is less. They're more activated, whether people want to say that or not. There's a big debate as well.
You just feel better.
You feel better.
Psychologically, you're ready to go.
Because I've tried both camps myself. I've seen so much content of, just do a few sets to the bar and that is enough, like specific movement prep. And it just always felt crap. I always felt bad when it was time to squat, as opposed to 10 minutes, I would say mine generally takes of just like movement prep, general activity, just to get your heart rate up a little bit, get a bit of a sweat on. Always feels better.
Also, to fill in with that, a lot of people forget, for example, if you bench now, the thing is a chest movement. You've got your pecs, you've got your delts, you've got your triceps, you've got your lats, you've got your rib muscles, your sternum. Those are different muscles that also needs a different approach of warm-up. If you're just going to fall under the bar and start benching, you're going to get a chest bump, but all of the other stabilizer muscles, which are also important, doesn't get warmed up.
My favorite bench warm-up was a lap pull down.
Yeah?
Yeah, just feels great. Just feels so good,
And a lot of the best lifters that I would talk to, or even being at like international competitions, world championships, there's very few people I see who just get under the bar.
Exactly.
You can have anecdotal evidence.
You can have a look at even some of the bodybuilders which are extremely successful, big guys. They've got a proper full set warm-up approach. That is part of the training. It's not a warm-up, it's part of training.
Yeah, I like that. More and more often, I've been looking at what like bodybuilders are doing and trying to take from their training philosophy.
Powerlifters going to learn a lot from bodybuilders and vice versa.
Yeah, 100%. The last question I have specifically about training before we move into an interesting topic is there anything about training that you don't enjoy? Because we do this, we say it's a love, it's a passion, but with love comes frustration. So is there anything that does bother you about training and the process itself?
Taking the day off. Well, besides taking the day off, there are times when I'm in prep, I would look forward to squat, bench and deadlift days. But then obviously I would say more important days, the active recovery days where you need to incorporate mobility, rehab, prehab. Sometimes when I'm really busy throughout the day, if I've got a lot of work, I'm thinking, work is important. let's take this active rest day and do it rather tomorrow, which is a mistake as well. But besides that, no, I actually look forward to every day in the gym, except when I take off.
Cool.
I would fall in line with that as well. I find particularly towards the end of like a competition prep, where you've had the really big days that you have to be like so psychologically amped up for. And then you have like those taper kind of sessions that are just to tide you over until you can express that strength. And they, like, you come into the gym and you're like, this is so boring. I just want to lift heavy. I want to lift something heavy, please.
Or even when it's your peaking week or peaking weeks, then you have to work up to, let's say, RPE 9.5 weights, nearly a new max. You do it. It took you an hour or 2 hours to do one working set. Then you think, now I've got back down sets, I've got accessories. Then I'm thinking, I'll do that tomorrow.
Definitely fall in line with that. Well, one thing before we bridge on to a very vast, wide topic, the strongman competitions that you did. What led you down that path? How did they go? What was that like, that strongman stint that you had?
I think the strongman was basically my introduction to proper strength sports. Bodybuilding is more aesthetics and therapeutic, I would say, in a way. So I actually did MMA for about 2 years in high school, which was amazing. I loved it. Up until to a point where I had one fight at the end of matric as well. It didn't go well for me, but I still won. But my mother didn't like that. And also I had to go to university the next year. So she told me straight, you're going to have to make a choice. Either use your body and lose your mind, or use your mind. And that stuck with me. So I decided I'm done with
Take a step back from
I'm done with MMA, even though I loved it.
Yeah.
But the amounts of concussions I got wasn't worth it, and I still had to go study. So my brain was important. Then from there, bodybuilding, and then the strongman was actually just a proper introduction to strength sports.
And you did a couple of strongman competitions?
I think about 3 maybe or 4 in a time span of 2 years.
I actually don't know how strongman competitions work, because there's so many different events, isn't there? Do they just tell you a few weeks out from the competition you're going to do these things, or do you just show up and then there's certain ones that you have to
usually
do?
Depending on the federation or depending on the comp, they would give out the event list a few weeks or a few days prior. And obviously with powerlifting, it's squat, bench and deadlift. But with strongman, you get up to 20 events. And it's like sometimes a 2, 3, 4 day event where every day you have about 3, 4 events as well. It is rough. Like powerlifting is tough, but strongman is something else, honestly.
I'd love to talk to like a fully competitive strongman just to get an insight into that world.
Those world class top, or like top of the top, are big guys.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, we saw
that is actually where I would say height plays more in your favor, as with powerlifting.
Yeah, because with powerlifting, the way I look at it, the kind of almost the shorter you can be with the most amount of muscle mass, you're probably going to be like very, very strong. Whereas these strong men have to, if you're lifting up like a stone that's out to here, and you're 6'8", it's probably going to be easier than you're 5'11" trying to get around it.
There are exceptions, obviously, like Mariusz Buchanovsky. He was one of the shortest strongman, but he won World's Strongest Man like a few times. Even today, there's a few strongmen who's even my height, and they give you. Say again?
How tall are you?
1.81 meters, 5'11".
Okay.
6 foot in a pair of Air Max. That's the same as me.
I tell people 6 foot because I miss it just. But
throughout this conversation, there's been so many things that you've said that I can like relate to, and I'm like, this guy's just like me.
But the thing
is, better, man.
I wear Vivo barefoot shoes. I wear Vivo barefoot shoes, so 5'11".
No one's going to question you, though.
If you say 6 foot, people will tell you. Don't worry.
The next topic, small preface or prelude.
Yeah.
Want to hit it?
Will I take it away?
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting topic. We are tested powerlifters, so we have to do drug tests. You're not allowed to take performance-enhancing drugs.
There it comes now.
There's a whole other side of competing that is untested. So a preface to the conversation, we weren't sure how to even approach it just because it is such like a taboo
topic.
Subject, I would say. You don't want to come across that you are endorsing. There's a lot of like young, impressionable people on the internet. Someone might hear you say one thing and then take it out of context, and it's a very big decision, a serious decision.
It's a touchy topic.
Yeah. But it's also a very interesting topic, and it's not something that is spoken about too often. So there's tons of questions that we have and would like to dive into. So who knows? Well, I don't even know how this conversation will go.
Yeah,
but
you're gonna lead this conversation because we don't know a lot about this subject, about PEDs, performance enhancing drugs.
If you have questions, shoot away.
So, do you take PEDs? Just to get it out into the open, yeah.
But I've always been open to using PEDs. On Instagram, when people ask me, I tell them straight, nothing to hide, nothing silly. A lot of us use it, especially in the powerlifting scene. I would actually argue that I think the powerlifters or the powerlifting community and the sport might be one of the sports with the most or highest doping athletes that there are. But yeah, I do use.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know how to go about this question. When did you start taking PEDs? Because some people are I've chatted to some people who started really young, some people, whatever, they train for X amount of years before they start using.
So I'm 30 years old now. I started using PEDs just basically before I turned 24.
Okay.
But up until 24, I've been training for 9 years already.
Okay. And what was the decision to go down that route?
Interest.
Yeah.
It sparked my interest. I've always been, how can I say, a promoter of clean sports as well. But as I went more in depth and got more introduced into strength sports and the human physical nature and everything, I also thought the only way you can actually see what the human potential is capable of is through anabolics. Obviously, being natural, you can get far. You can also show what the human limits are naturally. But using PEDs, you can push past those boundaries and actually tap into your genetic ultimate potential at the end of the day. And
where were you at before you started, numbers wise, body weight wise?
Squat, bench, and deadlift. That was basically just before I started powerlifting as well. At that time, my focus wasn't really strength per se, although I did train for strength. So at 23, I think my numbers just before I used was I don't want to lie now. I think it was a 320 squats and deadlifts, but this was without apparel at all, no belts, no knee wraps. And I weighed like maybe 94, I think. And my bench was, my bench was like 155 or something, 160.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Still.
Yeah.
Wait, so you basically were a water cut from 93.
Yeah.
Basically a 93 gone 320, 160, 320.
That's huge. It's ginormous.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So you were already like a high performing athlete by that stage, let's say. Like you had already put in
base.
a lot of work had been put in those previous years.
If you say so. Honestly, at that time, I didn't know where my fitness level was in comparison to the rest of the world natural. Although I did follow powerlifters and I did compare myself with them. But I think the powerlifters that I looked up to were obviously the guys that used performance-enhancing drugs. So I thought, like, how's this possible? And that's when I started delving into the research of anabolics. And it took flame from there, basically.
I was going to say, even from the chat so far, you can tell that you are like a conscientious person. It's not a decision that you just make on a whim. Some guy says in the bathroom of the gym that, hey, I've got this thing that's real good.
To give an idea, one of my very good friends is a pharmacist. We lived together during university years. And with him, we did research for about 6, 7, 8 months of every week, in-depth research about, first off, just the general topic, anabolics, and the different terms associated with it, PEDs, anabolics, AAS, what each different terms mean. And then the next research field was, what do these anabolics actually do to the human body? And then from there, what's the difference between the different type of anabolics? So I went into depth and detail up to the point, if you get a side effect from this thing, what do you do to counter it? Because I was scared. I was really interested, but I was scared. So it took me a long time of doing research up until the point where I finally got the courage to see it through. And I know a lot of people would ask me, like, do you regret your decision?
No.
it is what it is. I made the decision. I'm living with it. Yeah.
Fascinating, because that was one of the things I was most interested about. Is I actually don't really know what these specific compounds are and what they do, and one thing has a specific outcome that it achieves, and there's other compounds that have a totally different purpose. So I don't want to frame it in the sense that you are going to be like the encyclopedia of what things are, but in a general sense, what are like the main compounds that people like hear about or talk about? Or maybe I'll just start throwing names at you.
Throw names at me.
So test, that's
basic.
testosterone
I mean,
that we have. Like
testosterone is just a synthetic version of our own natural hormone. That's it. Test is king. I mean, you can't go wrong with test.
Anavar.
Okay, so Anavar, usually bodybuilders love Anavar, especially for the fact that they use it during the cutting cycle or the last few weeks of the show to dry out, get lean. It's anti-catabolic. For example, it's not as harsh on the joints as Winstrol, which is quite similar. For strength athletes, some people use it, some people don't use it, but it's more for the not recreational, but more for the bodybuilders, just to say it like that.
Okay. So anti-catabolic, it essentially just makes them like hold on to muscle if they're coming down?
Coming down on a deficit when everything is low, just holds on to muscle.
Okay, interesting.
But Winstrol doesn't do that.
No, all anabolics are anti-catabolic actually.
Okay. In the name, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it can go into such detail as, for example, you can compare them milligram per milligram basis. You can compare them. Some are more specific towards some routes. Some are more specific towards what you want. So it just depends.
Growth hormone?
Okay, so growth hormone is not an anabolic.
Okay.
That is a peptide.
That's another one that I was going to ask about afterwards. We'll dive into that one as well.
So a lot of people think that human growth hormone is anabolic steroids, which I don't understand. It is a hormone, but it's not AAS. So that's just a peptide. So you get human growth hormone, which we secrete as well, but you get the synthetic version as well. And then through the human growth hormone, there's different derivatives which the people make in the lab as well. HGH you don't really use for strength, I would say. You can use it in conjunction with the cycle. It amplifies the cycle basically. But people use it more for therapeutic reasons. I don't know if you heard, a lot of people say HGH is basically the fountain of youth drug. Yeah. Good for your nails, good for your skin, good for your hair. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Deca.
It goes both ways for bodybuilders and powerlifters. Usually a compound you use to pick up weights, it's amazing for joints, lubricates the joints, keep them healthy, and then amazing bulking compound to pick up weights.
D-ball?
Well, we all know Dianabol. Probably one of the most frequently used orals since Arnold Schwarzenegger's time. Basic, it works, wonderful anabolic.
And that would again just be building muscle mass, recovery,
goes
joints.
Both ways. Strength, mass, depending on your diet and everything else. You can even use it while cutting up to a certain extent. And if you use it in conjunction with some other compounds, they complement one another. So
interesting. Clenbuterol?
Clenbuterol. Yeah. Not a hormone at all. That is just a thermogenic. I just need to get my facts straight now. If I remember correctly, Clen is actually asthma medication. Yeah. So people who's got asthma sometimes are prescribed Clen. It opens your airways in your lungs. The alveoli air sacs gets opened, get more oxygen in. Clen, however, is amazing for fat loss since it's thermogenic.
That's what I've heard it.
It boosts your metabolism, body heat goes up, everything. But the thing with that is you have to increase your water intake because you pee a lot and you cramp up.
Okay. And then I've probably missed some more, and I might ask you if there's any broad ones that I've missed. But the big daddy that you always hear about and is in all the memes, Tren.
Well, you've heard about people saying Tren is the king of steroids or the king of strength, basically. But not everyone's cup of tea for a lot of reasons. It is really harsh on a lot of the organs. And the big thing which people don't take into account, mentality-wise, it can mess you up. Depression, insomnia, just to name a few, even physical as well. Night sweats, you name it.
Train cough.
Train cough.
Have you heard about train cough? No. This is I heard about this maybe a year or so ago, and you can correct me if my retelling of it is incorrect. Apparently, it's when you would like pin, if that's the word. Yeah, so after you would inject, it could be like a minute or so after, you just get this like intense coughing fit. It almost feels like your lungs are.
The reason behind that is usually when you pin, if the needle is in the glutes or wherever you pin, you first need to aspirate. When you aspirate, it's to make sure you're not in the vein. So if you aspirate and blood comes out, you know you're in the vein. You don't want that. If that happens, or you didn't aspirate and you nick a vein and it's tren, that goes through the blood system, through your heart, through the lungs. And once it goes through the lungs, it's like a agitation. And that coughing fit is your body trying to cough out that toxin or whatever it is. And that coughing fit can be horrible. Yeah. Depending on the person, some people say it feels like you're literally being choked and you can't breathe. Other people say it's like a really bad feather tickle in your throat, or like putting a finger in your throat, and you can literally feel your lungs and your body just, it's horrible.
Just rejecting.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like feeling like you're going to die almost.
And the thing is, before the coughing fit starts, if you nick the vein, you can already feel like from the bottom, there's a weird sensation building up, and you feel it in your throat, like your throat starts scratching, and then you know
it's gonna come.
Fuck.
You just hold on for dear life.
You just hold on.
And it could last for a few minutes, I heard, sometimes.
Yeah, a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on how much goes into the vein. I've got the silly story, but I don't know if I should tell it.
You have to tell it. You have to tell it.
There we go.
So, not to beat around the bush, but a few years ago I was on tren.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get shit for this, but I was at my girlfriend's house, parents' house. Had a powerlifting meet the weekend. It was one of my, a few years ago, but pinned tren, nicked the vein because I didn't aspirate, got the coughing fit. Didn't warn my girlfriend about that. She was with me in the room.
Yeah.
Didn't tell her what to expect, didn't tell her what to do.
You're dying.
Freaked out, ran and called her mother.
Oh no!
Now I'm there in the room.
There's a giant who's coughing in the room.
With the needle coughing. Her mom rushes in and sees me with the needle and everything laying there. I'm like, what?
How did you explain that one?
Naked as well.
Cheeks out.
I'm just like, hand against the cupboard. I'm okay.
As you're dying in front of them.
Start giving you CPR. You're like, no, I'm fine.
Just leave.
But that's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Just to clarify, aspiration, is that literally like pulling the needle out to see if anything comes out?
So if you have your liquid or oils now in the syringe, you inject, and then you would pull it out again when it is in, just to make sure there's no blood coming out. If there's blood coming into the syringe, then you know you're in a vein.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Fascinating. And are there any major other like common anabolics that I didn't name there?
Oh, there's a few. There's a lot actually. There's way too many. If you want, I can name a few.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so for oil-based, then again, you also get different esters. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, this is where it gets all very confusing, like designer compounds almost, where there's just new ones.
So for example, test is one anabolic. Within test, you get different esters. You get, for example, testosterone enanthates, testosterone cypionates, testosterone propionates, testosterone acetate. There's a few. Yeah. Those esters determines the half-life of the test.
And would that mean the amount of time before you'd have to use it again or to re-inject? Or
that as well. The ester depends the half-life, which makes up the half-life, which basically means it's going to determine how frequently you need to pin, first off, and then secondly also how long it'll take to kick in, basically. Okay. So usual go-to for most people is either test prop or test sip or test E. Test E, for example, the half-life is around 7 to 8 days or 7 to 10 days. Okay. So that means by day 7 to 10, the half-life is finished. So half of the
substances. Yeah.
So you want to make sure you want to pin at least minimum once every 7 days. But to keep your blood levels constant, you pin twice in those 7 days.
Yeah.
So for example, test E and test SIP are quite similar. You pin 2 times a week, Mondays, Fridays, or when the fuck ever. And then for test prop, much more shorter half-life, about 3 days. So you want to pin every other day, or even better, every day.
And even within those esters, would there be like a difference in the potency or like the effect that you would get from it, or it's relatively the same?
Test is test. Once you inject, the ester gets removed, you're left with testosterone, regardless of the ester.
And what is it about like tests? Like say, what was it, super physiological amounts of tests? What is it that is like beneficial? What's actually going on like under the hood? Yeah.
Well, you can think for yourself. For example, if you pin enough tests to get a horse going, you're going to look like a horse if you do everything.
Going.
But basically, if you have, let's say, 5 times the amount of tests than a normal person, everything else physiologically and biochemically will be 5 times heightened. Recovery will be better, your libido will go through the roof, your strength skyrockets, you build muscle mass like no one's business. Everything is heightened. But the drawback about that is the possible side effects you can expect is also heightened.
So what are some of the most common side effects from the main anabolics?
Depending on the dosage, the length of the cycle, and your susceptibility towards certain compounds. For tests specifically, basic stuff, high blood pressure. If you use it long enough, I won't say you will go sterile, but there's a chance your sperm counts and your natural testosterone levels will diminish, go down, basic stuff like that. And then obviously with other compounds, Tren or Beca, there's other side effects related to that.
Yeah, because one I've only started to like hear about more recently would be like the mental effects that these compounds can have.
Tren especially.
Yeah.
People forget that anabolics are also mind-altering drugs. I think it's a Schedule 5 mind-altering drugs. So if you're prone to depression or anxiety or anything like that, stay away from Tren. Yeah. Especially people talk about roid rates.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bullshit. The personality you have basically just
will
gets
be
heightened.
amplified. Yeah.
So I've used a lot of things. I've been on high dosages as well with whatever. But by nature, I'm extremely relaxed, chill guy. I've never gotten angry. I've never got aggressive. But I can say that the depression and anxiety part is real. That catches me a lot.
Really?
And that's where you need to decide whether something like Tren is actually worth it. Because it can mess you up. It can influence relationships up to the point where people completely lose their mind. It can go sideways.
Fascinating. And again, that's a whole side of it that you never hear of or you never even really think of. Because when you're thinking of these compounds, you're just thinking of massive muscles being really strong, all of the upside. But there is, like you said, it's a calculated decision of, is this worth it for the grand scheme of things that I want to move towards?
For example, like Seth Ferosi says, when is a good time to start a cycle or anabolics? Never. But the choice is with you. If you make the choice, you need to know what comes with it, the good and the bad.
And I would say that's why this is like almost the best format to have the conversation, and the best person to have the conversation with, because like, again, you have obviously put so much thought and research into it, as opposed to, say, a lot of people who their first exposure to it is just a guy in the gym who says, take this, and then they get some god-awful cycle, and
then we get the bad rep. Anabolics get the bad rep, but the hormones are actually amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, your body is completely run and controlled by hormones throughout.
So with meticulous management and
you'll
care
be
put into it.
That's where having basically a doctor or pharmacist on your side works. Get your blood work done. Check your mental state, decide whether it's worth to use this compound or not. Keep your hormones in check, for example, with high levels of tests. There's a high estrogen conversion as well.
I was going to ask about that.
That's where people get a bit, or especially big grown men, they get bitchy.
Yeah.
Like,
Hormonal.
hormonal, like
Yeah.
the smallest thing they might burst out in tears. Also, like, for example, DECA, progesterone conversion is a thing as well. No.
And how do you combat that increased estrogen? I've heard about like sort of blockers and other compounds to try manage when you increase one. It's like a
That's a nice thing about medicine. There's a counter pill or a counter measure for everything. So just simple basic, if you on high levels of estrogen conversion gets high as well, you take aromatase inhibitors or SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators. Depending on what's happening in your body, that will depend on what you take.
From the time prior to when you started taking PEDs to now, what are some of the big differences between, obviously there's the physical change, of course, the strength increase, everything like that you experience, but what else? Things like you mentioned, like, mental state, libido, I don't know if appetite is affected, just your general psychological state, your attitudes towards things, your motivations. How do they compare from before and after?
I would say, let me quickly think about this one.
Yeah.
I would say, for me personally, the anxiety state is a bit heightened more now than it was before. Libido as well. Actually, a difficult one. I haven't really thought about that question, actually. Having the constant thought of, having to battle any side effects that arises, it keeps you on edge the whole time, and it's not always a nice thing, because I've been using now for the past few years, and every week or every month or every whenever, you always need to take everything in consideration, not only the psychological aspect, but the physical one as well. Now now it's more a fact of I constantly need to have some type of counter on hand.
Yeah.
If you don't take it soon enough, or you don't take it at the right time, some side effects might become permanent or something like that.
Yeah.
But that also depends on what you're using, how long you've been using for, whether you're cycling on and off, whether you're blasting and cruising. There's just a lot of things to take into account.
I'd imagine it's a whole extra variable, even
it's a
things
whole
like travel.
Yeah, it's a whole different universe, actually. Your entire state of living gets changed. Even just to go visit parents or flying over, like you mentioned, you need to take that into consideration consistently. Plan around that.
How have you managed specifically the anxiety experience?
Weed.
Really? Interesting.
Like you said, there's always a counter for one thing. There's another.
Is that legal in South Africa?
I would say yes, but I think at the moment it's more like a gray zone.
Okay.
It is in the motion of becoming legal, but that's going to depend on, let's say it's legal, but there's a gray zone.
Yes.
So you're allowed, I can't remember the specifics, but you're allowed to have up to a certain amount of plants. I can't remember how many, maybe 3 or 7 or something like that. You're not allowed to buy, but you're allowed to smoke your own stuff.
To possess.
And then you're allowed to have up to a certain amount of grams in your possession. Per person, it's actually quite a lot. I think in South Africa, once again, don't quote me on this, I can be wrong. It's a few 100 grams, like 300 grams or something, which is quite a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And has that been all the way through, or is that a more recent thing that you went to? Because
all the way through. But the thing is, that's also a double-edged sword. Smoking too much, too frequently, that can negatively impact you as well. When you have to take a few days off of the grass, the anxiety gets heightened. And for example, me having flown over here, usually before a meet, I would take off a few days, and the withdrawal symptoms can become sometimes a bit not nice.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
We mentioned along the way there about peptides, and this is something I only heard about probably like 2 weeks ago. I think it was the world's strongest man, Mitch Hooper.
Mitch Hooper.
Yeah. He had a video on YouTube where he was breaking them down, and he was talking about essentially they're like, it's a compound that my understanding of it was that it tells your body to produce more of whatever hormone your body was producing anyway. And the main ones were like BPC 157, I think that's what it's called.
There we go.
And then MK
677.
that one. It's a whole new world that I wasn't aware of.
Those are actually, again, two different classes from one another. So we spoke about anabolic androgenic steroids, which is now hormones. We've spoken about peptides, which is something, a different class as well. And then you get SARMs. SARMs, for example, is MK677, also known as Nutribol. That, for example, helps you to go to sleep, boosts natural growth hormone secretion, and it gives you an appetite like a lion. And then you talked about the BPC 157. That's in another class. Oh, it's actually a peptide, but more specifically a recovery peptide. People will talk about that in conjunction with TB500. TB500, BPC 157 is amazing. As an example, TB500, if I'm not mistaken, was isolated in the human gut, intestine. The properties for both of those compounds are tissue repair and recovery, but throughout the entire body, up until the points ocular, eye recovery, brain recovery, cartilage, bone, everything.
It's crazy.
It's a wonder drug.
The anecdote that I heard for it was Mitch Hooper saying he was like 4 weeks out from a strongman competition, tore his hamstring, so there was like bruising, it was purple, it was black, and normally something like that, you're toast.
You'll be out for a few months.
Yeah, good luck. He said the next week, after taking these compounds, the TB, I forget the number, and the BPC 157, the next week he was back deadlifting, and then 3 weeks after that he competed in the strongman competition and won.
I can actually attest to that. When I tore my quad at Elite Raw in 2-3 years ago, I tore 3 muscles in the same leg, my vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and rectus femoris. All 3 were bad second-degree tears. I nearly needed an operation in my left leg. TB500, BPC. 4 weeks later, started squatting again.
Whoa.
And the physician told me it's going to be 4 months. 8 weeks later, I was on the bodybuilding stage. Symmetry of the legs were fine.
That's mind-blowing.
Do they prescribe like TB500 to, say in hospital? Like if you did tear your quad, why don't they prescribe it?
It's illegal.
Okay.
I think it's illegal in South Africa. Actually, I'm not sure, but
like if I broke my back, I would hope they'd give me TB500 and not just send me home in a wheelchair. They'd give me a shot, man. I don't care if it's illegal.
There's a lot of stories that I've heard, say particularly from like the UFC, of fighters who are injured and then going to like Mexico where you get these treatments.
Yeah,
and like
the thing is with the USA, we all know Mexico. Yeah. You can get a lot of things there.
Just over the counter you get whatever you need. Yeah, like stem cell, all sorts of stuff going on in Mexico that would get you back to full health.
Well, stem cell therapy and, for example, PRP, platelet replacement therapy, the doctors do actually prescribe those. But TB500 and BPC, I think, is illegal or not prescribed because it's still in trials. Yeah. It hasn't been accepted for human use yet. Jesus. As with SARMs, there's not even a lot of studies done on SARMs, mostly on rodents. And I mean, most steroids or hormones are actually veterinary hormones. Yeah. It's used for cattle, equine, like donkeys and horses.
I heard a story of someone who was making, I think it was, maybe I'm making it up that it was trained, but it was some sort of anabolic from like horse pellets. In his kitchen he was making. Yeah.
As an example, you get this one compound, equipoise. Now the first half of the word equi stems from equine or equine. That is the family of horses, zebras, So it's a veterinary grade.
The zoology degree coming in.
That's a nice thing I can say with the degrees. They complement the
I was going to say that world.
Yeah.
Even with the degrees. Oh, I did 2 years biomedical science. This guy's just me, just on steroids. Just better.
Literally,
but better.
Yeah.
Amazing. So fascinating.
It is,
SARMs, anabolics. Because even just from this, whatever it's been, half an hour, I feel like my brain has just been expanded.
Honestly,
from the knowledge.
this is just the tip of the iceberg. I've been doing this now with the anabolics and everything for 8 years plus, and I'm still learning more stuff. Yeah. It's a whole world, and that's why I also mentioned earlier. Like I'm not in the sense of what's the word? I'll catch you now on the word. I was my Afrikaans, English.
Man, just too smart. Too many languages.
Too many things going on in my head now. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a massive world.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'm stuck on it not being used in medicine yet.
Yeah.
Because again.
It's because it's too good. And then they'll find out that it works real well and then just charge you up the wazoo for it.
Yeah.
It'll be like
They have to try price it first. That's what it is.
Yeah.
TB 500 therapy.
Yeah. Incredible.
Wow.
Is there anything that you see a lot of other people getting wrong, or again, mistakes that a lot of people would make with anabolics?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of mistakes. First off is just taking advice from the random guy in the gym, or even worse, going on Google and going to forums.
A random, T-Nation, bodybuilding.com.
Exactly, and then listening to what they're telling you to do. Once again, it boils down to getting your blood work done, knowing what to do, what not to do, and your way around side effects. And that's where it comes in handy to have a physician or a pharmacist or someone to help you and guide you.
This is going to sound cliche, but what is some advice you'd give to younger lifters who are new to lifting, new to the powerlifting or bodybuilding scene, and they see all these things about steroids, they don't know a lot about them? What would you say?
They see someone who's so mega jacked and they're in their first year training, they're going, I want to get there. I want to be that super jacked, strong guy. He's getting all the honeys.
No. You would think if you start gymming, all the honeys would come, but it's the guys.
It's the guys.
We all know this.
Andrew knows that.
Yeah. I would say just straightforward. Like it's common knowledge. A lot of us use stuff. It is there in the market. It's easily accessible. Some of it's quite cheap as well.
That's sorry to cut across. Someone was telling me how much that they had paid for a cycle of something.
Depending. Cheaper
than protein powder in some instances. Oh, mind blowing.
If you now have a type of protein powder here and a vial of test, let's say the vial of test costs 10 euros.
Yeah.
And then the tub of protein costs fucking 35 euros. And you actually know, like, this small vial is going to be much more beneficial due to protein synthesis, nitrogen, everything. You're going to go with that. But no, for me, straight off the bat, I would say it is good to know about what's happening in the world regarding anabolics, that people are using it. But do take notes of the risks involved as well. So a lot of people would rather have the children or the younger generation not know about it. But I've also found if you keep information away from someone, or you forcibly keep a person away from doing something, that's going to encourage them to really go out and get that. So rather make it public knowledge, spread awareness, have professional personnel on site, and that'll just be better. I mean, if you have knowledge about it from the start, know what to expect, not what to expect.
It reminds me of...
It could, I just feel like it could be so much more dangerous when there is that lack of knowledge and people are going to the wrong sources. And
so I don't know what it's like in South Africa, but sex education in Ireland it sucks. Like, you receive next to none, and especially not until an age of your late teens where a lot of people will have already engaged in sexual activities or whatever.
That's interesting.
So similarly, the danger of, like a lack of awareness of consent and STDs and everything like this, you don't fully understand, because I think it comes from this kind of conservative, religious, let's not talk to the kids about it so that they don't do it. Instead of they're going to do it, let's protect them.
Exactly that. It's just, That is like the exact way with anabolics.
And there's similar things with, I don't know if there's some countries that do have it, say for like the homeless populations who are using drugs, that they have specific areas they can go to where they're using clean needles as opposed to just being out in the streets. And
rather, you know, the person who's going to use the needles or going to do drugs, rather have a help center
infrastructure to guide it.
To actually offer clean, sterile needles. So there's, at the end of the day, less infections, less cross-contamination. And then through that, eventually you can slowly work on that person as well.
Fascinating. This has been such a good chat. It's been so eye-opening. And again, even as you said, it's only the tip of the iceberg. But I think having that information out there, and again, there are the pros and there are also the cons. Oftentimes people just see the pros. They see all the big jacked people. They see the really strong people and they go, I want a bit of that. I know I'm only training 1 year and I don't know how to get enough protein in. I don't know what calories are. I only sleep 4 hours a night, but I heard someone say that they take a load of tests. Let me do that.
That's the other thing. A lot of times now, people aren't willing to put in the work. They aren't willing to do the research regarding proper nutrition. So the anabolics is just a shortcut to quick gains or quick escape.
And even then, I saw a study about the percentage of just average gym goers that are using anabolics, and
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Tons.
Yeah.
But you might see them in the gym and you'd have no idea because they don't have the other infrastructure in place.
In South Africa, for example, there's a lot of people that use, obviously. So they would use anabolics, but completely disregard the diet, completely disregard sleep, and then every weekend they would go and drink their livers away, and then wonder why they're still looking like potatoes. And then it boils down to either, who knows what the excuses they can come up with.
Yeah. One thing that seems particularly scary to me about the idea of anabolics is, say you have these years of being huge, being really strong, being massive. And I suppose this happens in any instance, whether like just being a powerlifter, you have these years where you are the strongest. There's inevitably going to be a taper off from that. But I would say that would be even more heightened in the world of anabolics, where you are used to this identity of being massive, being this monster.
That's where the psychological part, and you never want to take off.
Yeah, when do you stop? How do you stop? How do you come to terms with that new world where you're seeing yourself smaller, not as jacked, not as strong,
I think that is where your mentality and outlook in life plays a role. For example, let's say for a silly example, I still want to have kids one day. For me to be able to do that, I'm going to need to get off. Me and my girlfriend, we've talked about this. Sometime there is going to be a child. But up until now, I'm investing in my sports, I'm investing in my future. But also I'm doing it as safe as possible and as conservative as possible. But I also know once I do taper down, there are means to get myself healthy again. And that's in combination with going to a fertility clinic, getting myself checked out, running a decent and long and strong enough post-cycle therapy, etc. So having an outlook on life, depending on whether you want a family, whether you actually want to get old, you're going to need to get off a lot of the things, taper down and start looking at your health. Yeah. But for me now, I still got a few years left doing powerlifting. So
the best is yet to come.
Yeah,
sorry, go.
No, go on.
I was going to say, it sounds as though you've had that long game in mind. It's not like I'm just living fast right now and then whatever happens, happens. You've already grappled with those potential scenarios, which would go a long way, I'd imagine. When you do get to that point, at least you've put the groundwork in to address it when you get there.
I always try and think a few steps ahead, not just about tomorrow or the next week. I like to think about the next month, the next year, mid, long-term goals, the next 10 years. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
No. I was going to say there's a major identity piece there.
Yeah.
And it comes with anything, and especially at a time of transition. So transitioning, no matter what, be it off steroids or I did my dissertation on like brain injury. And one of the huge themes that came up was this adjustment and acceptance from the person you were and who you had hoped to be to now the person you are and will be. And it's completely different.
That is one big thing.
And so I think what comes to mind is this element of you need to love Nick for who Nick is, whether or not you look jacked and lean or smaller or chubbier or whatever. And that's maybe something we've, on a smaller scale, talked about where we're bulking and we're not as lean and we have a spare tire, as we call it. And it's like, I'm still Andrew, whether or not I have a six-pack and I'm jacked, or whether I'm weaker or stronger or my best powerlifting day or my worst, I'm still Andrew and have those pillars of Andrew that I should love. So
your physical outer shell doesn't define and depict who you are as a person, but that's where the anabolics changes your mind, your brain chemistry, up to the point where you can become a different person. And that is where a lot of people aren't strong-willed or strong-minded. For me, the big thing and takeaway was, I am going to start using, I know the effects it's going to have on my mind, but I'm going to try my best to let it not change me. And I can attest 100%, you can ask anyone, before I started using 7-8 years ago, up until now, I'm still the same person. Because I've got relationships with people, I've got relationships with co-workers, and that is more important than just being juiced up and jacked.
Good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
From the few times that we've met each other before this, I would say, yeah, you're doing a pretty good job anyway.
Yeah.
Good to
The
know.
way that you conduct yourself, yeah,
I agree.
by all accounts, amazing
agree.
fella.
So we have some off questions on it.
Okay, I'll just jump in. His favorite question to ask is,
No.
do you think you could beat the two of us in a fight?
Like at the same time.
Well, will this give you an answer? Will this give you an answer? I've never been in a fight outside of the cage. There was once at the university. We have this one hostel, and the people from South Africa and the university is going to have a laugh. This one hostel is called POWERLIFTING. And like the culture and the upbringing in South Africa is hard, especially with ontgroening initiation, which isn't a thing anymore due to politics and shit. But POWERLIFTING had this rule: it doesn't matter who you are, you don't walk across the grass. I was a first year, 19 years old. I didn't know this.
No one told you.
I walked across the grass. This coming back from gym in a wifey.
Yeah.
Now there was this car with 4 guys, seniors, like 23, 24 years old. They rode past and they stopped dead in the street. They hooted at me, told me, klim van die fucking gras af. That basically means get off of the fucking grass. Because it's a thing, it's tradition.
Yeah.
I was like, what,
Yeah, what are you talking
who the
about?
fuck
Yeah.
are you? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
They got out, looked at me, got back in the car and drove away.
I would have done the same thing.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. So he doesn't even have to answer. We
answer
know
is-
the answer is yes.
He doesn't want to go to jail for murder, so
I have been getting the urge to do MMA again, but
Yeah?
I don't think it's going to happen.
okay.
I
would
wouldn't
love
want to be
to, but-
standing across the cage.
Nah.
Well,
Are there certain leagues where like there's like tested, untested?
for MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, the big federations like the UFC, obviously, and then in Africa you got the EFC, Extreme Fighting Championships, all tested. But then also, as with powerlifting, you get more underground federations and private, unsanctioned federations. They don't care.
You just be fighting in front of some oligarchs in some back room
Well,
for like millions on the line.
For example, with my first fight was completely unsanctioned. There was no federation affiliated. And with my first fight, I was 17 years old, so I was still a junior. My first opponent was 30 years old, which was already wrong.
Yeah.
And also, they disregarded the rules completely. Since it was our first fight, it was my first fight ever. This guy at the moment was the African K1 champion. I think it was a K1, African K1 champion. And we were supposed to wear shin guards. We were supposed to wear head guards. None of that happened as well.
God. And how did that fight go?
Horrible, but good.
A good learning experience. Right?
Yeah. Basically,
you lost, yeah.
That's my Nick.
basically, I was 17 years old. My growth spurt only started when I was 18. But I was a bit shorter as well. I was like 175, and this guy was 1'9". First rounds, went in, exchanged a few punches. He gave me a massive roundhouse kick through the face. You just heard, fell backwards. As he chased down on me, I regained consciousness, gave him a rugby tackle, and TKO within two hits.
Okay.
And from there, the only way was up.
From there, had a next fight, and then the last one is where I got that bad concussion. But still I won the fight with the TKO, and then I was done.
So were you undefeated?
Yeah.
Sure you're on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a stupid question.
Yeah, well, there you go.
How long do you think it would take to beat the two of us in a fight?
If we didn't run away, like if it was really...
Let me ask this, have you ever fought to know how to fight?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, luckily for me, I would say my weight advantage and the fact that I have martial arts background.
Less than a minute.
So
Do
polite.
you think,
So
you,
polite.
do you think you could do it in less than a minute?
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say 2 minutes.
Okay, cool.
1 minute each.
1 minute each.
Yeah. What did Nonso say? He said he would just choke me out first, so I'm shorter, and then he'd ask Andrew just to wait, just give me 30 seconds, and then I'll beat you.
But also then again, I doubt that would ever happen because I'm not a fighter by heart.
Yeah.
That's
gonna say,
the big
too
reason why
nice.
I had to stop MMA. The first round, I would always need to get fucked up, and then
To get hit first.
Yeah, but then the problem is there was a switch that would go on or off, and I would see black and completely lose control, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What other silly ones have you got lined up?
Well, there's one we were discussing before about a 6 lift meet, so 2 attempts in each squat, bench, and
Yeah,
deadlift.
talked about that.
Okay, so
What do you make of this? From your perspective, as a big guy, strong guy, what do you...
to preface, right, it was in line with making powerlifting more entertaining for the spectators, where
Engaging, viewer-friendly,
shorter.
Shorter flights and everything.
more intense because obviously...
I would say it could be a good thing. But especially for my regard, I never go 9 for 9. Usually
No, you don't have to.
No,
usually I get my opener and my second attempt, and then usually by the third something else goes wrong always.
Okay.
But I think that might be a good idea. I think it's something they can always implement with an unsanctioned, unaffiliated event, as like with abs. So it could be something we can try out.
Try it. I actually had someone reach out to me to say that they did run it, and they had something like 20 lifters, and the whole thing took 2 hours, maybe.
Perfect. I mean, less time, less exhaustion, plus it makes it more technical.
Yeah.
You're going to have to decide whether you're going to do a last warm-up or an opener as a last warm-up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you miss
the
one
jumps.
lift, you got to decide, do I retake it or actually go heavy?
Go for broke.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then, again, as a viewer for that, makes it very interesting.
It
makes it very
does.
exciting.
Because I know one of the big reasons powerlifting doesn't have a lot of views, it's slow and tedious and boring.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
You only want to see the third round.
The openers, it just takes,
Especially
takes
if there's
some
more than one flight as well.
time.
Big time. Big time.
Is there any silly goofy ones? You can't ask that last one. We'll ask that one off air.
Okay. I guess, what's the stupidest thing you've done in pursuit of gains?
Oh, I like that one. That's an interesting
You know, be it, I heard one story about this guy, he was like force feeding and he had like a whole bag of pasta before bed. And he woke up during the night having got sick all up the wall, all the pasta all up the wall. And his mom comes in, she's like cleaning it, and as they're cleaning it, he's still eating the pasta.
No.
And
Did
another one.
he eat the pasta that he threw up?
Yes.
Ah!
It's
This
just
is
like-
you. This is definitely you. A guy I know
Just like a dog.
used to put. He used to make shakes with chicken and spaghetti in
that
the
is-
shake.
That is a common thing, actually.
I used to do that all the time.
Do you know the equipped lift the Vanilla Gorilla from
Yeah.
Canada,
Yes.
IPF? He does the chicken shakes.
Oh,
Blend up
disgusting.
chicken.
And spaghetti inside. And this guy's like
Look,
18 years old.
The
going
thing
out with
is,
his friends with
I'm
a spaghetti
fine.
shake.
I don't want salmonella, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, has there been anything
Yeah, what's the stupid that
outlandishly
you've done?
stupid or reckless that you've done in the pursuit of gains?
At the top of my mind,
He's
not
too,
really.
he's
Not
too
really.
smart. He's too calculated.
Yeah.
No, for me, it's more of a fact of I don't want to risk the chance of messing myself up or having to backtrack a month or two and lose that progress.
What about though now, knowing what you know, looking back on when you were younger, was there anything that at the time you thought was right, but now you would never do again?
Interesting.
For-
He's
for
been on the
instance.
ball the whole time.
Yeah.
He's been on the ball. This man, he doesn't miss, right?
Here's the example I use. One time, really early on, I obviously seen like Russell
Yeah.
deadlifting white legs. I was like, all right, chalk my legs.
Chalk.
Because it's white, so it's
It's
white
what
powder.
you do.
Obviously, that's what he
That's what you
did. Obviously, it was the toughest knockout of my life.
I've actually seen that happen in South Africa as well. At my first strongman comp, there were these few guys who came from another town, first strongman comp as well. And they also saw like, yo, we're throwing this white powder on our knees, and they took chalk and chalked their knees.
Yeah.
None of them got the bar past their knees. And they couldn't fathom why. But no, with me, honestly,
You've been on the ball.
I'm boring. I didn't.
Nice.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I've eaten shark biltong, shark jerky.
Nice. Is it nice?
How do you get that?
It smells like piss. It's no, literally it's highly salty and let's go like ammonia smell. Not great. I've also had tarantula.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, that is quite interesting.
and a whole tarantula, was it cut up? Was it
No, just like a leg or two.
just a few legs?
Other weird things. I think that might be some of the weirdest.
Crocodile, chicken hearts.
You've eaten, yeah?
Oh no, chicken heart is common in South Africa.
Really?
To
Yeah.
me, that's
Well,
bizarre. To me, that's the weirdest thing I've ever eaten.
If that's weird for you, I've had chicken heart, chicken liver, and then also what you call offal. It's basically organs.
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
My dad grew up in Liberia, and they'd have monkey. They'd eat monkey meat. Yeah.
Wow.
What is the wildlife in South Africa like?
Wow, beautiful. I mean, I think we're probably one of the countries with the most fauna and flora rich.
And we're talking to the man with the zoology degree and the microbiology and the botany and that.
And the nice thing about South Africa is it's really biome rich. So we've got loads and loads of species of different animals, from birds to mammals to reptiles, especially insects.
Yeah.
For example, both my master's and PhD was on reptiles and amphibians and bacteria and viruses, and South Africa boasts with a massive spectrum of those.
Really? Yeah. We have foxes.
You might get a rabbit every now and
The
again.
other evening we drove through town near Rathgar. I got a fright. I saw this, I thought it was a jackal. But now that you mentioned fox, it wasn't fox. I actually got a fright because I've never seen fucking something like this. It didn't look like a cat. It didn't look like a dog. I thought
Just
like,
this weird sneaky motherfucker.
I thought like, fuck, I've been taking off from weed for too long. I'm starting to
Jackal
speak.
followed you from South Africa.
But that was weird seeing a jackal, yeah.
Class.
And speaking of South Africa, well, it's not going to be breaking news because it will have been announced before this. But we might be making a trip over to South Africa to see you because ABS, the people hosting this competition, maybe venturing out your neck of the woods.
Yeah, apparently, eh? I'm not going to say it's thanks to me at all.
But thanks to me.
No. So, as you know, the idea with ABS or behind ABS is to become the world's most prestigious international event. And we've talked about ABS moving to America, and on the next continent or next stop would be Africa, specifically South Africa. So really excited for that, but we'll wait for more details.
Amazing.
Very exciting.
We're going on a holiday
Very
anyway.
exciting.
We'll be
Yeah.
commentating.
Yeah.
So now,
The
Jay's going to pay for our flights out because we're
Yeah, I
coming.
actually heard Jay was going to pay for the flight.
so that's going to be something else because the climate is completely different.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which is going to be quite interesting, is having all of the athletes fly as
Have to
far as
travel
I
to you,
did,
yeah.
basically. And yeah, with the entire setup, the way South Africa is being run, it can get interesting.
Easy.
But for me, the nice thing is having the opportunity to bring this to Africa and South Africa, and for those athletes to be able to compete alongside international athletes and get some more recognition, which they deserve, both for males, females, juniors, open, because we've got a lot of talent, but they don't always have the opportunity to go
The
overseas.
means to
the
come
means.
somewhere like this.
Exactly.
And as you said, there's such a massive culture over there. No doubt there's a big talent pool waiting to be tapped into.
In fact, there's one guy, Colton Engelbrecht, 23 years old,
400 kilos.
insanely strong. With his last training videos, for example, he's insane. He did a 430 deadlift for a triple. I think he did like a 400 deadlift for sets of 6,
5 or 6.
400 squat for sets of 5, 225
I think I've
bench.
seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah. So
And 23,
23,
same age as me.
Mm.
What the fuck?
and he's a big fella. He's a little bit taller than I am, but built. Only 23, and he doesn't even weigh 110.
Whoa.
So if he
Insane.
can keep that up stay injury free, he's going to do damage. He might even be able to go up to Dan Bell, honestly.
Incredible.
People always say, I'm strong, what. Yeah, that's nice, but Colton, got to keep your eyes on him, honestly, especially since he's so young.
As far as I know, he's coached by Thomas Lilly.
He
the guy
is.
who was there, James. Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, I think his next meet is in Australia, June or July, I can't remember. Yeah.
So you want to watch now?
You want to.
Hopefully we'll see him.
He's got big goals in mind, and he's been showing he can do what he does.
Right.
Sick. Yeah, that's us.
I was going to say, last but not least, competition. Do you have any words to your competitors? Anything to say?
Well, this
Warnings?
will come out after the call.
Yeah. Oh, so you just give your victory speech, I suppose. How are you feeling coming into it? 2 days out now. Are you ready to go?
I want to say time flew fast, really. I can't think I've been here for a week already, which is amazing because it shows I'm enjoying myself, maybe too much.
On that note, can I cut across? Out for beers yesterday and the day before he was.
That is all Dan Bell's fault.
I heard Dan Bell was a devil for the beer.
Before.
We went out with Dan and Eamon. Wonderful time, great fellows.
Amazing.
When they offer you a beer, you take it. You don't ask.
Was it Guinness?
Obviously. And then we followed up with a whiskey.
Nice.
Amazing. There you go. He's a true Irishman now.
He is, yeah.
I enjoy my whiskey. So yeah, 2 days out, really excited, can't wait, a bit nervous as well, but I feel a bit more, I don't want to say confident, but just relaxed, since this is going to be my second abs comp. Last year the ice was broken, but then again, the people put a lot of stress on me for being another expected winner, as I can put it like that. But I like to back myself and say I'm not coming in with any expectations as well as like with last year. Last year was a comp per formula. This year it's per total, and Dan Bell is here. So not putting any expectations on myself, as with last year. Just want to beat my all total, and with the added bit of body weight, at least aim for second place after Dan Bell. But then again, there's great lifters all across the roster. Fernando, Dave, I'm not even going to name the rest, there's too many. Slip up one attempt, you can fall down 2, 3, 4 places easily. So this is where I agree with a lot of people saying this is going to need to be a 9 for 9 meet. So we'll see what happens, especially with the expected outcome of maybe 3, 4, 1,100 totals.
Massive.
6, 7, 8,000 totals. I think Jay is going to be poor after this.
We're going to have some payouts.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that is actually an interesting one. Sorry to extend it and bridge on, where you said there is that little bit of external pressure where people just do expect you to be,
I don't know why though.
at the very top, to be excelling. How do you manage that? How do you cope with that? Do you have any strategies? You alluded to it a little bit, but how?
I wouldn't say I've got a strategy. I'm just the person who don't make too much of it. I don't get into my own head. And also, putting up a good poker face and facade always helps. But the words of people are, I don't want to say empty, that might sound mean, but it's just words. Whatever happens on the day on all the platform is something completely else. Been enjoying myself, making jokes all of the time, up until tomorrow probably. But when it's game day, I think we're all going to get a bit more serious and then just take it from there.
Yeah. Show up, give your best.
That's all we can do.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
What time are you lifting on Saturday?
I think the flight starts at 3:30 the afternoon. So for my South African fellows, that is 4:30 now.
Sick.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting with us. That was amazing.
Can't wait to see you lift on Saturday. Yeah.
Anytime and always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for hosting me.
All the best.
Thanks.